Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Creators Podcast. On today's episode, I had a chance to sit down and talk with Brady Hosmer. Brady is someone that I've seen on so many different projects all across Birmingham with so many different creatives. And I was really excited to have the chance to just sit down and ask him about his influence, his background, his future aspirations. And it really was a great conversation. And I'm excited to share it with you now. Check it out. Brady Hosmer, thank you so much for joining me today on Creating Careers Podcast, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is such a great setup you got here.
I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's been a beautiful and painful experience setting this place up, but
Right,
I'm
I can
very proud
imagine.
of where it's at right now. So
Yeah.
thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm excited for this.
Yeah. So I've been following you along for a while. I've seen you in projects of that other people have created, and I've seen some of the projects that you've created. And I've also seen you sort of not just behind the camera, but oftentimes in front of the camera. And I'm just going to be real frank with you right now. Like you have a good look to you on camera. So props to you on that.
That's very kind of you to say.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I even talked to Mason Irwin the other day,
Oh, love
and
Mason.
yeah, he did
Yeah.
some photos with you recently,
Yeah.
and because I was telling him that I was gonna have this podcast episode with you, and he was like, "He's a good-looking guy. Like, he's got a good look," and I guess he did some photos with you?
Yeah, we did some man, it must have been like month or 2 ago. Yeah, he had he said he was testing some presets and he wanted to have you seen the movie Marty Supreme? Or
No.
have you heard of the movie
Oh,
Marty
yeah, yeah,
Supreme with
yeah.
Timothy Chalamet?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. I
he
haven't seen it. I've only seen, like, some really, interesting advertising for it, I think.
right,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
oh, man. We could have a whole podcast just about the marketing of that movie, but he was testing some presets, and he wanted to, like, recreate some shots or, like, some, like, aesthetics from the movie.
Yeah,
So he just, like, texted me and was like, "Are you free this day? Here's what kinda I have in mind." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." Like,
yeah,
it's like to just, be Timothy Chalamet for a second, in whatever form, man. It
yeah.
was so fun. Yeah.
No, he showed me we were on a trip together this past week, and he showed me a picture of I can't remember the guy's name that plays James Bond, the blonde hair, blue-eyed James Bond.
Oh, Daniel Craig?
Daniel Craig, yes. So he
Yeah.
showed me a photo of Daniel Craig sitting there holding a cup of coffee in this sort of interesting way. It was black and white, and he's like, "You willing to help me recreate this?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, are you asking me to be 007?"
Is that what you're
Yes.
implying right now?
Yes. I don't care what it takes. Yes, I
Yeah.
will try to be 007, although I am quite short in achievements in that
What
regard.
are you
So,
what are you talking about?
yeah,
You're telling me you're not auditioning for the next one currently? Because
I
they're
mean,
casting for it right
yeah,
now,
I'm
so
pretty sure that I miss it in so many ways.
I don't know about that. I think you should throw your hat in the ring. We'll
I
see.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But Mason did a great job of capturing the aesthetics, the look. Unfortunately, I do believe he missed it pretty wide on the subject. But anyway, it was an honor that he even wanted to capture an attempt to do that. So it
Yeah.
was cool. Do you and Mason have y'all worked together on projects, or did y'all know each other outside of sort of the creative community? What was how did you already have that
Yeah,
relationship?
me and Mason, I believe I'm sorry, Mason, if you're listening to this and I get this wrong, but I believe the first time we had met was on a short film called Frontman. And it was one that was made by the guys over at Cedar
Yeah,
Creative.
yeah.
Um, Man, that must have been like 2 years ago or something like that. I think I was second AC on that. And he was there, I think, doing some BTS and some PA work. And I think that's where I think we'd followed each other on social media for a while.
Yeah.
But I think that's the first time we met in person. Yeah. And yeah, he's great. He's a creative force. He takes beautiful photographs.
He really does. He's
So,
so he went on this trip with me, and he was photographer and DP. So
mhm.
he was getting a lot of like candid photos, and then also like for the interview, I just leaned on him for like get me a beautiful frame light it well, and he nailed it.
Yeah.
It was really great. So it was great working with him. He's a gentle giant, and
Yeah,
I mean the giant
absolutely.
part
Oh, yeah,
especially. I
that is not
imagine
an
he could be not
exaggeration.
gentle when he needed to be,
Right,
but he
right.
was such a kind guy and
Yeah.
truly quite grandiose in presence.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we're not talking about Mason. I
Mason,
don't
you
think
got
the
your free
I know.
minutes. You've already had your episode, all right?
Exactly, exactly. All right, so let's talk about Brady Hosmer.
Oh,
Who is
wow.
Brady Hosmer? Where'd you come from? Where was your sort of upbringing a little bit? We don't have to get into your like creative journey yet. We'll get that into another slide,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
and feel free to touch on some of these images if you care to.
Man,
But yeah, what, tell me who you are.
yeah. Man, first of all, these photos, these are some as you can tell, my hair is not that short anymore. I've grown it out a lot since then. These are
You say not that short. That looks like pretty thick,
I guess
dense hair.
comparatively to
Right.
this,
Yeah. Yeah. It was
but
more up. Now it's
yeah.
down. Yeah.
Well, who is Brady Hosmer? Man, I ask myself that question all the time.
Do
Um,
you have these kind
the
of
existential,
conversations with
yeah,
yourself?
with myself,
You're
yeah.
like a running podcast in your head all the time. You and you.
Oh yeah, that's the ADHD going off right there. Yeah, I'm born and raised Birmingham area from a little area called Hueytown, kind of like Bessemer area. I've lived there all my life. Always loved the arts and anything like that. I played some sports growing up, but I ultimately kind of put that to pasture, as to say, to kind of lean more into what I really liked doing, which was the arts and theater and stuff like that. Yeah, I remember like kind of early on, like my mom showed me Star Wars for the first time growing up, which this was back when Netflix would like mail you DVDs to your
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
like way
Yeah.
back when.
Those were good times.
Yeah, good times. She and she'll correct me, I'm sure, when she listens to this, but
Right.
I remember initially she was like, "Oh, I think you'd really love this movie. It's called Star Wars: The Space Adventure. You're gonna love it." And I was like, I don't know. I don't know about all that.
How
I
old?
think this was, oh man, I was probably like, I can't remember exactly, like 9 or 10, something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just remember being like, that sounds boring. It's this movie from the '70s. It's gonna look really old, and I'm
Right.
not about it. But she showed me that first movie, and I was just to this day like just locked in on that and everything, and just like the affinity for filmmaking and like just how even back then at that time you could create an image or something that looked so realistic or something that was so like captivating with the limitations. And so yeah, I was devastated when I watched all of them and I was like, "Oh," like, I got to Return of the Jedi and I was like, "Oh, when's the next one?" She was like, "That's it. Now we gotta go back." We go back to, another trilogy set before, so
Yeah.
I think that's where I really, started loving movies, and that and, like, the 2012 Avengers film, I think those 2 were like, wow, like, cause that movie even more so, I was like, "This looks so real." Like, it looks like it could happen just outside my window, even though, it's full of these fantastical elements.
Yeah.
I think that's where it started for me. I remember, like, in middle school, I had my little Lego minifigures and my Nintendo 3DS, and it had a little stop motion setting on it. And I would spend my weekends just making little stop motion movies for myself or for my mom with my Lego minifigures. I would have so much fun. I'd have um, a show called Zeke and Luther on in the backgrounds in my room. I would just play to my heart's content. Um, and yeah, I'd always kind of wanted to, I think what I'd always envisioned for myself was kind of staying behind the camera and just making the thing. Because I don't know, I just found that part fascinating about like creating a world in that way. But when I got to high school, um, there wasn't really many like elective classes I could take for filmmaking specifically. So the
Right.
closest I found was theater. And there was a theater tech class I remember, and I was like, "Oh, theater and film, that's close enough," so
A
I
lot of
could.
overlap.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I could start there and then maybe down the line move on. But that class had a prerequisite which was just the base theater class, which was all the acting and everything. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do all that. That sounds very nerve-wracking. And I was a very shy kid growing up. So the idea of having to not only talk to people, but talk to an audience full of people and they're watching what I'm doing, I was
Yeah.
like, that sounds like my worst nightmare. But if I wanted to take that class, I had to take the theater class. So I ended up taking it. I had a great time with it. Yeah, I had a great time with it. I was just gonna do that and be done with it. But our final, as the conversation goes on, we're gonna hear a lot about like final exams or final assignments that had to do that like kind of led to certain things. But this
That's usually
class,
not those aren't usually good jumping off points for kids or
right?
students in
Yeah,
general. Usually, like,
like the
final
final,
exam is where
yeah.
everything goes bad.
Right,
It
it's like,
sounds
oh, the train wreck
Yeah,
happens,
exactly, but for you, it seemed that was more of, like, pushed you to new
yeah,
levels.
yeah, like, the final for that class was I had to audition for the Spring musical, which was an original musical that just used some Disney music that they may or may not have had the rights
Right, yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Don't put me on record saying that. But I had to audition for it for the class. Like I could that was the final, and then I ended up getting cast in like a supporting role. Like I like my I had a name and I had lines and stuff like that. So I was like, I didn't really want to be here, but now I am. And but doing that, I remember early on was like, I don't know, it kind of like opened up it kind of started me on my journey of like curing my stage fright and getting better at talking to people. But also just gave me a new love, which it was for acting, and just like the whole creative side of it. So I think that theater class in high school was where it really began for me.
Yeah.
So
That's I mean, first of all, it's cool to know that you grew up like I did in Hueytown,
yeah, you're a
born and
Hueytown
raised, yeah.
guy as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and so just knowing that, I mean, even going through some of your photos and seeing some overlap of connections and even family friends and like longtime family influences. Matter of fact, you said you go to Crossroads or did go to Crossroads
Yeah.
growing
Yeah.
up,
Grew up going to Crossroads.
and
Yeah.
Jimmy Bradford was the pastor probably most of the time that you were there.
Yeah. He was the pastor there when I was like, yeah, I think through like middle school when I
Yeah.
was in middle school. So I definitely remember him.
So
Yeah.
Jimmy was actually my mother and my dad's youth pastor.
Oh,
And
really?
then back when I was about 14, I started preaching at
Mm-hmm.
North Highlands Baptist Church there in Hueytown.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was like, I want you to go talk with Jimmy, uh, who wasn't my pastor at the time, but I knew Jimmy. I knew his family. Jana,
Mm-hmm.
his daughter, was really good friends with my sister. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew them even through the kids. But anyway, he sat down and met with me and talked with me just about preaching, about pastorship, about just life in that kind of ministry.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's a great guy. Huge
Yeah.
respect for him. Huge respect for his family and the service that he did, not just for Crossroads, but for the Hueytown
Yeah, just
community
the
in
whole
general.
area, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, really, was really close with him growing up, yeah. Had lots of similar, like, meetings, more so about just, like, my faith journey in general. I didn't really feel like the pastor route was for me, but just my faith journey in general, I remember having lots of conversations with him.
yeah,
Great guy, we're still good family friends with him
yeah,
to this day. I think, like, a couple months ago, I was helping, like, clear out some, like, weeds and stuff from his backyard.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I've got some friends through North Highlands that it's like the Harris family, Natalie
mhm.
and Megan and oh gosh, why am I going blank on their other sister? Hang on, because that's the one that married uh,
Oh,
uh, Jared Bradford.
yeah.
Jared and Oh, crap.
Man, speak now.
Yeah, that's so bad.
You're
I
on
know.
record.
I'm on the record as not being able to.
Oh no.
Lindsay. Oh my
There
gosh,
we go.
Lindsay's
We got
name
there.
just
We
went
got
totally
there.
blank. But
Yeah.
anyway, we were all like those three sisters were really influential in
Mhm.
my teenage years, just as friends. And then Lindsay ended up marrying Jared Bradford. So
Yeah,
anyway, it's
yeah.
still. I
Anyway,
just saw Lindsay at a an event recently. So
yeah,
and Jared I think
yeah,
was there as well. So.
yeah.
Um,
Small world.
yeah,
Small world.
Hueytown's a great
Yeah, great
community.
town.
Yeah. All right. So we've touched a little bit on your creative journey and how you got started, at least in theater, heading towards film. First of all, I want to know those stop motion Lego movies.
Yeah.
Where are those visible at? Can we
Yeah,
find those
yeah.
still?
I mean, first off, again, the photos, the photo game is so funny. This one right here in the bottom right is killing me. No, they're
You're very
definitely.
expressive in when you want to be, and then you're very intense
Yeah,
other
the
times.
dichotomy of these two photos right there is is so interesting to
It's
me.
hard to believe it's the same person.
I know. But no, about the like, I think I actually have them on my phone. Like at least two of them. They don't have any audio
Okay.
because I remember. I'll break down my process, my super high concept, really complex process for making my stop motion movies, which was just taking a bunch of photos on my 3DS with like my Lego minifigures, and then like to add audio, I would just get my phone and record the screen and talk over it like as the movie would play out. So it's like a recording of a
And how old were you
recording.
during this?
Oh, I was like 12. This was middle school. Yeah.
This is what you were doing with your time.
Yeah, my own time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would
I
just
mean,
be making.
there's definitely worse things in middle school to spend your time doing than
Yeah.
stop motion Lego
Yeah,
movies.
I
So
spent a lot of time doing that in middle school. I think I only have like 2 and they have no audio. I think I somehow got them straight from the DS, but yeah, like they're out there somewhere. I know 2 of them are on my phone at least. It was really a lot of because I told you again, like Star Wars was such a huge and still to me now, like I still love
yeah,
all of it. Like so it was a lot of just like basically Star Wars fan film type things just with my Legos. And I would just create little like battle scenarios or just little like conversations. The one exception to that was my mom was a big Dancing with the Stars fan growing up. And I remember I made a Lego stop motion called Dancing with the Star Wars just for her. And it was just like my Lego minifigures just like spinning around and
yeah.
doing all sorts of things. And at the end, I think a Wampa from Empire like breaks in and just like destroys the whole set or
Of
something
course,
like
that's the way that
that.
every
So
Dancing with the
yeah,
Stars
at
episode
least from what I
should end.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Some Death
So
Star kind of
yeah.
explosion or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm hearing
Um,
you talk a lot about your mom and the influence she was on you as a child.
mhm.
What I mean, what is her sort of creative expression? Is she into
Yeah.
film? Is she into
Mhm.
something else?
Yeah, so my mom has had a journey in terms of her creative endeavors. Shout out, mom. I know you're listening to this right now. She, when she was her and my dad both did show choir in high school. Like I also did show choir in high school as well. Kind of like not even like because they did it. I don't think I even really found out fully that they did show choir in high school until I started doing it. But they did show choir in high school. My mom's talked a lot about how she like a big dream of hers was to be on Broadway and perform like that. She used to sing a lot. She'd sing a lot in, choir at church and stuff like that and do some like solo stuff, whatever. She had a wedding cake business that she ran for a while. I remember when I was a kid, she would get those like giant buckets of like fondant that she'd use for the cakes. I would make like obstacle courses out of the empty buckets in the backyard just I don't know, doing whatever as a kid, but yeah, she's a very creative mind person, so she's always supported my endeavors basically and pushed me to really like pursue those. Um and to like just really go all in. Like her and my dad both have always been really supportive of what I've wanted to do, which is really just work in the film industry, make movies, act in movies, all that sort of stuff. Like my parents were both boosters in our theater, like theater booster club. Growing, my dad became the president of it somehow, so we just had all the theater money in our house in a lockbox. But yeah, they were always super supportive of me and were always trying to get involved as well, however they could in what I was doing. So helping me fundraise for show choir dues or helping me like with audition stuff for like high school musicals and like helping me get all my stuff in line so that I could go to Sanford and be a theater major,
Yeah.
which is what I ended up doing. Because my mom worked at Sanford for a little while, and my dad went to Sanford kind of after he had me doing some night school, so they both had connections there. Um, so yeah, they helped me like just really set myself up in that way of being able to go and do the thing and learn, especially in that time when it came time to looking for colleges and stuff. And, because that's the time when a lot of like young people are like, all right, this is where you got to decide what you want to do, or
Right.
I feel like it's that pressure of like, you got to
Yeah.
know what you want to do now and you got to
Yeah.
lock in and spend 4 years doing that and, just have their whole life figured out. Um,
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done.
Most kids graduating high school don't really know what they
Yeah.
want to do, but there is definitely that pressure to like lock into something so you're moving in that general direction.
Yeah,
So,
and I think I'm very fortunate because I've never doubted what I want to do or, like, the field I wanna go into. Because I hear like especially when I was in college and some in high school too, I always heard like when we'd have people come and talk to us, it'd be like, all right, like for theater specifically or any sort of entertainment job, it'd always be if you don't love this, like if you don't know that this is what you want to do and you don't love it, then please find something else to do
yeah.
because the only way you're really going to be able to succeed in this type of field is if you love it and you cannot see yourself doing anything else. And I know that I have that because I've never even like thought about doing anything else, I guess. I've never like I think there was like a 2 week period where I wanted to be a firefighter, and then it was just, all right, I want to make movies,
That
or
was
act in
just that
movies.
role you wanted to play at some point, right?
Yeah. You're right, exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why I was
Yeah.
there.
I
Yeah.
do think it's really amazing and props to your parents for a, really encouraging and supporting the idea of you going and doing that, because I think a lot of parents look at theater as more of a hobby than a career, and
Mhm.
the idea of investing the kind of expense of college
Mhm.
into that. I mean, props to them
Yeah.
for just supporting your interest and passions to that degree.
Yeah, like my dad, they would both be actors in my movies I would make for YouTube when I was a kid. Like in and when I got to high school, I especially would do a lot of like I mean you do call them shorts now, but at the time I was thinking of a more like skit based
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
like a lot of times I would do stuff just with my iPhone and no script, just like a vague idea of like an outline of some sort of silly whatever I wanted to do. And they would always help, like they would always be in it or like help collaborate and come up with like fun things to do or shots or whatever. So yeah, they've always been super supportive of me, and I really appreciated that because I know that that is not a super common thing,
yeah,
amongst people who want to pursue this career path, So I've always felt very blessed in that regard. I don't guess it helps that my mom especially also had a similar dream,
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's cool, and sounds like she is quite creative herself, and
yeah, absolutely.
definitely fed into your creativity.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not that your dad didn't, but it sounds like your
No,
mom
yeah.
definitely seems to
Yeah,
be.
my dad did show choir and did all the things. I don't think he ever really had the actor dream. He was always a car guy.
Yeah,
He loves cars and loves that type of hand-on work, which, you could argue is a creative field in of
yeah.
itself.
Everything
But
takes creativity to some degree because you're
absolutely.
usually having to problem solve in creative ways. Like you
Yeah.
got to create or figure out a new way of doing it at least this time. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Props to your mom and props to your dad. So
Shout out mom and dad.
there you go. Always, always. All right, congratulations.
Oh, man.
Like this just happened,
This
didn't it?
just happened like a yeah, a couple months ago back in January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit of this story specifically, the engagement. How
Oh,
what was the situation? First of all, you're at a beautiful place. I don't know, and then
uh,
you went and did photos. I think at the
yeah, the
Museum of
Birmingham Art
Art, right?
Museum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful photos
There's
there.
so much lore here. There's so much lore.
So much lore
There's so
is
much lore. Yeah, like,
okay.
backstory
Yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's my beautiful fiance, Anna Lynn. Shout out Anna Lynn. I love you. We met at Sanford in the theater program.
Okay,
I was at Sanford as a basically straight theater, just acting and directing was like my concentration. And then I had a film production minor because I still always had the film dream,
right.
but just tools and like getting reps in, I guess, to push that forward. She was there in the Theater for Youth program at Sanford, which is like a theater program, but it has an additional teaching component to it because she's always loved the idea of like opening her own children's theater one day
Yeah,
and teaching theater to, like kids because she did a lot of like youth programs growing up that had a big impact on her. So she's just loved that type of environment. But yeah, met her on a tour of Sanford. And I remember at the time being like, "Oh, she's cool." We talked briefly about music, similar music tastes and stuff. And at the time, I mean, I had no idea at the time what that relationship would blossom into. But yeah, we started dating my sophomore year. Did a year of long distance in between when we kind of had a like a break, and she was already graduated and I was still there. She came back, and yeah, it's been about actually, I proposed the day before our 5-year anniversary of dating. So,
nice. And where is that? Where are you at in that photo?
yeah, so this photo, it's a greenhouse kind of it's like right outside of Birmingham. I wish I could remember. It's a plant store. I cannot
A
remember.
plant store looks like
Yeah.
that? My gosh.
Yeah,
It
it's
looks
like
like it should be like a hotel or
They
some
could
type
they
of
can make
really
a killing,
beautiful.
yeah, like an Airbnb right there or
Yeah,
something, but
yeah.
yeah, I cannot quite remember the name of the plant store because this was
I did not
actually
expect a plant store. To me, the idea that it's almost like you went to Lowe's and proposed to.
right, just proposed in the greenhouse section at Lowe's. Well, this was actually the backup plan. This was the
Okay.
backup plan because you can kinda see in this photo, it's raining.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, there's so much to get into about this engagement. But long story short, I had a different location planned. It was kind of up at more of a scenic view of Birmingham.
Yeah.
You could see the whole city and like the where the sun was setting. It was gonna create this really beautiful picture and it was going to be great. And as you probably do when coming up to things like this, I'm just constantly checking the weather, checking to see if everything's going to still go according to plan. And about a week before I propose, it's like, oh, today is sunny, tomorrow is sunny, rain, 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 the whole rest of the week, just like a monsoon.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna have to scramble to find a rain plan. And I had been in contact with two of her really close friends from Sanford. Shout out Chloe and Lily. I that been helping me plan pretty much the whole time and coordinate, all the festivities around that
Yeah.
weekend. And I texted them being like, guys, it looks like it's going to storm on the proposal day. So we've got to I got to find a rain plan. And we were trying to figure out where and what and like how we could pull something like this off with such a short notice. Thankfully, we had a mutual friend of ours who knew the owner of this plant store. I wish I could remember. Shop. Yes, it was Shop.
Thanks, Cole Peavy,
Yes,
back there
thank
in the
you. Shout
background.
out production. Yeah, it was Shop. He knew the owner. We had a mutual friend that knew the owner, and he was able to get in contact with him. And this, like, it was basically closed at this time of the year because it was still cold outside, so it
Yeah.
wasn't really open. He was like, the owner was super chill. He was like, "Yeah, I'm going out of town this weekend. I'll just leave it unlocked for you, and you can do whatever." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Great." I went and it was so funny. This like this whole engagement process, the analogy I've used for it, it kind of felt like I was in pre-production on a film, and like the engagement was like the first day of shooting,
Of course, you're gonna
you know?
attribute you're gonna
Of
connect
course,
those
because
dots, your
naturally, yeah. Like
experiences, yeah.
I remember I went and scouted the location with my photographer, Blake Watley. Shout out
That's
Blake.
I was gonna ask who took it, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
Blake is a amazing filmmaker and photographer in Birmingham who's actually a childhood friend of Anna Lynn's. They both grew up in Auburn together.
There you go.
And I
Full
remember
circle.
full circle, such a small world, always such a small world. But we went and looked at the location. We tested angles, tested whatever. We got a little setup going there. And I remember like the guys I kind of like the setup for the actual day was that we were kind of just hitting up a bunch of old spots, basically, just kind of reminiscing. And we had hit like I had like a bunch of different places around Birmingham that we were going to. And we had one last spot that we were on our way towards, and I checked the time, and it was cutting it really close with just the timeline for everything else that day. So I was like, okay, we can't really make it to this last spot. We've got to pivot. And so instead of, I didn't really say or do anything smooth. I kind of just started driving in the other direction and not didn't say anything and just kind of hoped she wouldn't notice. And obviously she noticed. She was like, "This is the complete opposite way where we're going, and it is pouring down rain." And I there's a coffee shop right next to shop, and I parked a little bit further away, and I was like, I kind of gotta go to the bathroom. So I'm just gonna go into this coffee shop right here and go to the bathroom. She was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I opened the door and she's not moving. So I was like, are you gonna come with me?" And she was like, "Why would I do that?
Right,
It's
right.
pouring rain outside."
And you just need to use the restroom.
Yeah. And I was like, "Well, I might get a snack or something, if you want something." She was like, and she was kind of just like, "Okay, yeah, sure." Whatever. So I had to get the umbrella out. We walked all the way down there. I went to the bathroom and came back out. And then I was just like, "Yeah, I'm not hungry anymore. Let's just go back to the car." Because cause shop was like kind of in between my car and the coffee shop. And so on our way back, I was like, "All right, I have a surprise for you." And we walked up into the greenhouse and had our moment. And it was great.
Did she expect it, you think, at that point? Was there all
Oh,
these telltale signs for her?
uh, I'm sorry, mom. I'm gonna have to expose you here. My mom kind of
Of course.
accidentally spoiled the engagement party, because the plan was always for her to think that I was proposing on our anniversary, but I was actually going to propose the day before, so that there was still an element of surprise. But the engagement party was still set to happen on our anniversary. And so when we made a little graphic and we were sending out invitations for the engagement party, my mom accidentally sent Anna Lynn an invitation to our engagement party. And I was on a beach trip with her family, and she goes, "Brady, why'd your mom just invite me to our engagement party?" And that was so then I just basically had to lie to her for a week and be like, "I'm so sorry. It's still gonna be great. Once it happens, it's not gonna matter." And I pretty much just had to sell it to her that 80 or 90% of the plan had been spoiled when really only like 10 or 20% had been spoiled.
Okay.
So make her think it was
Yeah,
happening on that day.
yeah.
So this day was like a one last date night before we're engaged type of thing. And then we ended up. So she, and I'm sure she'll correct me when she hears this,
Yeah.
but she I mean, she obviously knew by the time we got to the greenhouse, but I think she knew by the time we parked as well, just like, "This is so odd."
Right.
It was not it was
Acting this is out of character, this is you
yeah.
you know your way around Birmingham, you're going
Right,
the wrong
right.
direction, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like,
There were
so
definitely some telltale signs,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
But,
that's when you just gotta, towel over the mouth and knock her out, and then drag her into the car and carry her over, then she wakes up and she's tied to a chair, and you're like, "Will you marry me?"
yeah,
Right?
that's definitely one I'll
I feel like there should at least be a movie
Yeah,
along those
I'll
lines.
put that in there
Yeah,
to write,
there you
yeah,
go.
for next
Write and
time,
direct
so,
that.
yeah. But thank you, yeah, and then we did our engagement photos um, at the art museum, and it was great.
Yeah,
Such a fun time, and that's at the time of this recording, deep in the wedding planning now, so
good,
and it's
good.
fun. It's
Yeah.
been fun, yeah,
Well,
so,
enjoy that. These are some beautiful times in
yeah.
any marriage. The engagement, the anticipation, and then the day of, and all that follows, the many decades
Yeah.
after that. So,
Yeah.
congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. It's
Thank you.
y'all have a beautiful engagement photo there. I love that. That looks so isolated,
Mhm. Mhm.
and sort of private, intimate kind of moment, and then y'all have got some
Yeah.
great photos with
It really worked out, like, the raining like, for the
yeah.
greenhouse, it really just added to just the ambiance of the whole thing,
Agree. I
that it
can
was
just
raining,
imagine like
so
the sound of the rain and
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and then
that's
yeah,
cool.
and then the photo shoot was great, all of it is just so much fun.
Yeah.
We're so excited for everything. Getting married in September, so it's just yeah, we're just, like, running through everything right now, but we're in a really good place,
Okay.
so
All right. Let's keep that energy. Let's
yeah.
keep that positive
Yeah,
mindset
yeah,
of the planning.
yeah. I mean, that's really all you can do,
Yeah. I
so
always tell when I've shot weddings, like videoed weddings, I'm always telling the bride and groom, I'm like, the most important thing is at the end of the day, the two of you are married. Everything else is it's just little tiny details that don't
yeah,
really matter.
absolutely,
So
yeah.
yeah. Hey guys, let me take just a moment to thank our sponsor, AmFirst. One of my favorite things about the creative community here in Birmingham is just how welcoming and collaborative the entire community is. Well, I can honestly say the same thing about AmFirst, from the local branch all the way up to the leadership. Um, Everyone in Am First that I have interacted with has been extremely helpful and willing to work together to come to the best solution for you as an individual or your business. If you're a small business owner, I really do encourage you to reach out to Am First, connect with their business services team, and see what kind of resources or collaboration that they can connect you with. Thank you so much to AmFirst for sponsoring this podcast and for supporting so many local families and small businesses right here in Birmingham and beyond. Now, back to the conversation. All right, let's talk about acting. And
Mhm.
I actually this I'm assuming this is like a photo within the showing of the premiering of this short film you were part of. But
Yeah, yeah.
whenever I interviewed Brody, he told me or we talked about this and
Yeah, I
actually
remember
watched
this,
it.
yeah.
So tell me just about acting in general. And I don't know what just happened with my voice. I just went up a couple of octaves there, but
You're never too old for a voice
I'm
crack, it
telling you
always
exactly.
happens.
But tell me acting in general, like why? What's your thoughts on that as far as like how you go about acting, especially in something that is as diverse of the kind of stuff you do. Sometimes you're funny, satirical. Sometimes you're serious and dramatic. Like, how do you go about making those kind of shifts and sort of what's your process of stepping into each role?
Yeah, so, I mean, it really kinda depends on the character. I mean, you gotta start I mean, for me, I always start with reading the script, of course, and, like, reading it a lot of times and kinda just sitting with, what the writer intended and what, you know, like, your interpretation of things, and then talking to, the writer or director or whoever and, like, talking about the character and kinda, like, the overall,
Do
like
you mostly act in things that you have a personal relationship with the writer,
Mhm.
or have you found yourself acting in things that you really just were brought into sort of unknowing, like not
Mhm.
really knowing anyone involved?
I think, like, until recently, it's been a lot of, like, collaboration with people I do know and have a relationship
Yeah.
with, you know? Only very recently have I started doing stuff where I don't really know, like, the people that wrote the script or anything like that. Like, this one, for example, I think this was the first thing I worked on with Brody. It was one of Sidewalk's, like, 48-hour
Right. Yeah.
filmmaking
Yeah.
competitions, So this was the first thing I'd done, at least with him.
Did you know him before that?
No, this was
Oh,
our
okay.
first.
I thought y'all had a relationship before this.
No, this was yeah, I think this was the first thing we'd ever done together. But it was great. I mean, Brody's he's such a great guy to work
You
with.
can tell me the truth. No one I'll keep this between us. Really, how is Brody?
Oh, he's awful. Okay, now that you've given me permission to be
Yeah.
honest, yeah, I hate the
Just
guy.
between
Can't
us.
stand
Won't
him.
share
Can't
this at
stand
all.
him. No, Brody's great. He's such like an he's just such an easygoing guy to work with. He's so collaborative and open to ideas and just like no ego or anything. And I remember that with this one because this was because like you know how the scrambles work is it's like it's a group effort
Yeah.
all the way through. Everyone is like brainstorming the concept and writing the script and delegating roles and all that. And it was just such a fun process with him on that. Up until this point, I mean, in terms of film, because you know, this would have been my senior year at Samford. So I had done a lot of theater at this point. And, you know, with a lot of a lot of theater, especially like in the educational settings like that, is a lot of like you're doing a lot of scripts that have been around for a long time and in most cases have been kind of done to death, you know?
Right.
So it's like there is a general idea of how
Yeah.
this goes.
Macbeth again.
Right, yeah. And, you know, and so it's a lot of like, okay, how do we put our own spin on this and collaborating with the director in that way? And especially in those educational settings, it was a lot less like I don't know. It was definitely it was a collaboration for sure, but it was a lot more of like a, okay, blocking it, doing the lines, and you know, and like a lot of character work on my own, I guess, and me figuring out the character by myself. So in terms of theater, it was like I've been kind of used to this sort of like system before of like, you know, I read the script a lot. I kind of just think about the character in their life and kind of what could have happened to them to lead them here and make it who they are. But for this was and then in terms of film, you know, I feel like I like to say I kind of made like my own kind of makeshift film major degree at Sanford because I was a film minor there and I would just rent out a lot of gear and make my own stuff with a lot of my friends. Like I have a friend who also went to Hueytown whose name is also Brady, who's also an actor
What's
who
Brady's last name?
Brady Aldridge.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. We had known each other for a while, a long time. We've known each other since middle school, and we've done a lot of we've worked on a lot of things together where it's like just writing a script and shooting it just because you can, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
I've heard Samford's gear closet is incredible.
it's a pretty good closet for a school that does not really have a dedicated film program
Right.
because Sanford's film programs are a lot of like mass media communication
Right.
type of stuff. So yeah, like a lot of news, mainly a lot of like news type of things. And there are like, you know, narrative classes, but they're kind of limited. But one of the professors just really advocated for getting some C100 Mark IIs in there and some lighting gear and stuff. So I'd be running out the C100 Mark II like all the time just to make little things and to test that camera out and stuff. But anyway, circling back to your actual
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
acting, it's I try really I'm an overthinker in my everyday life. Like I definitely have some undiagnosed ADHD where I'm just constantly thinking through anything that can happen really about like, you know, thinking through conversations and thinking through like best case scenarios. But when I'm especially on stage and yes in film too, but on stage, it's one of those moments where like you step out there to do it and just like everything kind of just like leaves your head, you know, and you're just like fully present and you're not thinking about anything, any other worries you have in your life or what you're doing later. You're just fully there, like you're just kind of locked in, you know? And so I like when I am preparing for some whatever type of role it is, I try to have a healthy balance of thinking through, you know, motivations and backstory and all this sort of thing, but then also really trying to stay present and kind of just see where the scene takes me or the direction of like the character in the moment or whatever. Like I try to be a lot more in the moment when
Yeah.
it comes to my acting. Like haven't, do enough homework, I guess you could say, to be like to be prepared and have the foundation. But then when I'm actually in a scene, kind of just trying to let go and just say the lines and follow instincts, I guess, and just kind of see what happens and then take that and then, build upon that for the next thing.
Have
You
you
know?
have you ever been in a situation where you've been on stage and maybe the rest of the world didn't stay sort of gone?
Mhm.
Suddenly you had a thought or you had a distraction and you go blank? Because that's what I would
Yeah.
be. I would be terrified of getting up there. And I've actually, because I did public speaking even in college, like competition wise. And I
Mhm.
remember getting up there and having a script in mind and suddenly going blank.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened? And what did you do?
Oh, I've got such a good story for this.
Okay.
So this is really these types of stories really only happen in theater because, with film, there's always you can always do take two,
Right.
and you can always go back and change something. But with theater's live. Like there what you get is what you get. There's no restarting the show and
I would
going
just
from the top, you know?
run off stage. I'm
Yeah.
gone. I'm
I
out.
mean, hey, when I was in high
Yeah.
school doing that, I had the same mentality.
Yeah.
And so so this was at Sanford. My s- my Sanford acting career was kind of interesting because I'm not really a musical person, but I would do musicals every now and then just because they were fun. We did a show at Sanford called A Christmas Carol, a little known story,
Yeah.
And there's a musical version of it that we did at Sanford. It was like our big like Right Center show because Sanford has a couple different like performing venues, and the Right Center is like the biggest one. We only do a show in there like every 4 years. Like really, every class gets to do one show in this space. And for us, it was A Christmas Carol, and I played like Scrooge's dad in a flashback scene.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Don't think I've ever seen Scrooge's dad portrayed in any of the renditions
until
I've seen.
now, I'll send you a
Trying to
link to a
think. Yeah.
recording or
I
something
guess
you
maybe I
can
did.
see.
Maybe I saw it in the Disney one with Jim Carrey. Maybe they have a
Maybe,
flashback of that.
maybe.
But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So you were his
Um,
dad.
yeah, so I'm his dad. It's one I'm his dad and I'm basically ensemble for the rest of it, which is honestly so much fun. Ensemble is an underrated role in like the musical theater space. It's so much fun. But I had one scene where I was Scrooge's father and I had actual lines and everything. And how the scene plays out is I'm on stage. It's when he's visited by the ghost of Christmas past, and he's having this flashback scene. It's basically his dad getting arrested for tax evasion, and the scene is set in this courtroom. And I walk up to the judge, and the judge is like, "All right, I've reviewed your case. You're going to jail for life, or something like that, basically." And I get my sentencing, and we had a little kid who played Scrooge, and in the scene he like
Oh,
run
just in that scene. I started
in
thinking, I
that
was like
scene,
that, but
yeah, we
yeah,
have
yeah, because
flashback
you're his dad.
Scrooge,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and he like in the scene he runs up to me and he's like, "Father, no, no, don't leave me," and I give him a hug and I part him some fatherly advice before he leaves, and it's the line was like, "Remember this, Scrooge, save your pennies, make your fortune, and keep it." And then I get dragged off stage. I'm just screaming at him as I get dragged off stage. Save your pennies, make your fortune, all this stuff. And like, I kind of like turn to see like young Scrooge there. I don't see him before the scene or anything. It's kind of like I walk out in a straight line on stage and I talk to the judge and I turn and he's there. Well, there was one night where the scene played out as normal. I walk out on stage. The judge gives me my sentencing, whatever, whatever. And I turn to embrace my son, and my son is not there. He is nowhere to be found. and some of this is like I kind of blank out in this moment, And a lot of this is just from descriptions friends have told me about what I did. I turn around and he is just not there. And I turned back to face the judge, almost to be like, "Okay, if I turn around now he will be there." So
Let's try that again.
yeah, let's try it one more time. I turn, look at the judge, and I turn back, and he's still not there. And this is like the scene can't progress until I tell him what's happening and I leave. So it's just like, well, I gotta do something. I gotta find someone to deliver this line. And in the scene, his mom is also there, like, with me, like, at the court hearing. And so kind of just like in a fight or flight reactionary state, I just, like, look at the mom, I grab the mom by the shoulders, I go, "Tell my son, tell him to save his pennies and make his fortune," and then I get dragged off stage. And
That was genius because I mean, uh, not only did you have to get out of that scene, but that was probably brought back up later in the play, I would imagine.
maybe. All I remember is afterwards, I am just, like, violently shaking because, you do. It's very easy in theater productions that, especially like the longer they run, to kind of just get into an autopilot.
Yeah.
Like, all right, this is like the 10th time we've run this. I know how to deliver the line. I know my blocking. I know the cues. It's fine. Just kind of just going through the motions a little bit. But the beautiful thing about theater are those moments where you're forced to just snap right back into reality and become an active player
Right.
again. And it's exciting and also horrifying because that could have gone very wrong,
Right. Yeah.
and it could have just been like a pants falling down type of moment. Because that auditorium, like, it holds, like, I don't remember, I don't know the exact count, but it's a couple thousand people,
Yeah.
and I think this was a sold out night. So it's like you have all these eyes on you, and you get in a situation like that, or it's like, "All right, what are you gonna do?" You've just gotta, like, and so that's always, like, been like that. I think that was a good, like, lesson for me too, is to, like, always stay present, always stay active, don't really become passive in acting or really in anything else I pursue. It's like, don't be a passive, just like going through the motions, autopilot, like, passive player in your own life, in your professional life, I guess. Like, just staying active and staying, like, aware, and always, like, being ready to pivot or adjust when an unexpected obstacle like that gets
Yeah.
thrown at you,
Yeah.
and just kinda doing the best you can. And that in that instance, it worked out, sometimes it doesn't, and if it doesn't, you kinda just you learn and you adapt and you move on,
Yeah. I
So
mean, those kind of moments, I think in the moment feels so gigantic. Like you feel as though you potentially could be ruined in this moment forever. It's almost like the intensity that we put on those kind of moments. But really in the big scheme of things, like that moment's gone in a flash
Right.
and very little of it carries on even in memory,
Mhm.
other than lessons learned and
Yeah,
great
yeah.
stories to share later, but
Yeah.
really the impact of that singular moment at least in a negative way is non-existent
Right.
after just a few minutes,
Yeah.
whenever it's over. So so I agree with you. I think we it's a neat way to um, it's a neat thing to experience those kind of almost mini, and I'm going to use the word trauma. It's mini trauma, like very minor,
Uh-huh.
but in the moment it feels so big. But relative to
Yeah.
the rest of life, it really is insignificant to some degree, other than the lessons
Yeah,
learned.
because that I think about that moment pretty constantly
Yeah,
now, and, like, it's so funny because, like, I have friends that have different POVs of that also love telling that story from their point of view as well, but, like, yeah, I mean, like, and I think that moment alone, like, it was scary in the moment, but I think it really paints a broader picture of why I love acting so much,
yeah,
like, it's so present, it's so raw, like, so many different things can happen, especially if you have, like, amazing people to play off of in your cast. Like, I've gotten, like, I have so many talented friends that are actors that I've gotten to do a lot of different things with, and just getting to play off of them, and, like, in different things, but discovering new things with the same people it's just it's a magic. It really is.
Yeah.
And just like that the power of that type of storytelling, cuz like I mean, like, you know, in the grander scheme of things, like all we are really are just like a collection of stories and experiences that we have. And kind of like what we're doing now, reciting stories to people to impart some sort of wisdom or some sort of like advice, whatever. It's always through this lens of storytelling.
Yeah.
And and like we love watching movies that are stories written by someone else, or reading stories, or creating our own stories. Like all this, like it's so like crucial to just everyone's life. And just like it's such a cool, I don't know, it's just such a cool thing and a humbling thing to be a part of, or to want to be a part of, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Well, somebody that you and I talked about off camera is Max Tatum, who I think is, and you seem to agree that such an incredible storyteller.
mhm.
And Max talked about how filmmaking and theater is like this too. His experience in both, it's such a communal experience.
Mhm.
It's a lot like almost like parenting a little bit, because it's like you come together, you join together to create almost a new life a little
Mhm.
bit, and it is that building a story, building a narrative, but then it's like the product at the end is really cool, but the real journey, the real like effort in getting to that point is probably maybe even more so what it's really all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it's true in theater and film, but I found it especially true in theater. Just because, like, the idea of, like, you like we talked about, like, oh, another showing of Macbeth,
Right.
or whatever show it is, but, like, you can do a production of Macbeth, like, there will always be another production of Macbeth, but it's never going to be that version of Macbeth again, with that
Right.
cast at that point in their
Yeah.
life, with that director,
It's
like
like a thumbprint on that
yeah.
one is so unique.
Right, and it's never gonna be recreated that type of way again. I feel like I remember hearing my professors talk about that a lot, especially when we were in shows, like, "Hey, enjoy this moment because like, this group of people is never going to be telling this story quite this same way ever again."
Yeah.
And I think that's just such a really beautiful thing about it, and same in film as well, like, you know, we're in an age right now where remakes of movies are such like a normal thing, and they're kind of thankfully there are a lot more movies and stuff coming out, which I'm so thankful for. But like there's just an era of a lot of remakes and reboots and stuff, and so it's kind of seeped its way in there as well, of like you can remake or redo something, but it's never going to quite be the same as the original, I guess.
Even when they
And
really try to, even whenever they
right,
try to imitate it with as much as they can,
yeah.
you're never going to have the same recipe, so to
Yeah.
speak.
And I think that's where that communal aspect is so like special, but also important because like I attribute like none of what I've been able to do I've done on my own. It's always been because I have a lot of talented friends and a lot of people who are just willing to put a weekend aside to make something, or just like thought of me to like help out in some like however big or small way on a thing they're doing, like I'm nothing without the friends in the community around me.
Yeah.
um so yeah, it's just such a special thing, especially like a community of filmmakers and artists and that type of thing. They just have such a unique perspective of the world and their craft, and why, and like their why, why they do the things they do. It's so special. And Birmingham's got such a great community of artists and filmmakers of all different mediums and varieties and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
I'm the Birmingham creative community is definitely quite unique. So, and speaking of,
Oh,
in
what a great segue.
exact, we
That was
planned
not
it. No,
planned.
no, it was. We
Oh,
talked about it
okay.
beforehand, so it was
I didn't
totally
oh,
planned.
I thought we weren't
Oh,
speaking
I'm
about the
sorry. Yeah, you're
script.
right.
Oh, okay.
We should have hidden
Yeah.
that. So, but speaking of the creative community, here's quite a few or a few pictures that of some of the projects you've worked on and some of the people you've worked with. But this question specifically, I want to ask because you did not necessarily go to film school, but you sort of, like you said, sort of created your own film school there at Samford. But then you've also had a lot of experience since. And I think this is true with every career that sort of ties to like university or college or even like trade school. Learning in school and doing in like in real world, totally different experiences, and
Absolutely.
the real learning probably happens in both to some degree, but most people give a lot of weight to experience and that kind of learning.
Mhm.
What was that like for you? Was there were there things that school like maybe misguided, misled? And I'm not blaming any kind of professor, but just in general, your experience maybe thought it was going to be one thing and experience was the other, or was there strict things that were right in line with it? Or were they just totally teaching two different things?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I mean, first of all, I mean, like the people in the like a lot of the people in these photos are just like such amazing creatives in this community. I see Brody right there, of
Yeah.
course. I
Yeah.
see, and there's other Brady right there with his now fiance Anna, and there's Sadie Sue right there, Blake Balin, all these people, like just such like amazing creatives in their own right who
Yeah.
also have all their own different experiences. Yeah, so a lot of so in this photo to the left right here, like a lot of these, like specifically, there's Anna Lynn, there's other Brady, his fiance Anna, and Sadie Sue. I went to Sanford with all of those people, and we were all theater majors together, so we had a lot of similar experiences. Yeah, so like the Sanford theater experience, I was a theater major. So my like I guess my upbringing in that sense was a lot more like actor focused and director focused for the stage specifically, are such great tools. I learned so much from them about my acting, like that I wouldn't have learned elsewhere. Like really like the technique of it from all my classes and professors and stuff.
Is there a
But
big difference between like stage acting and like more commercial or short film kind of acting?
um, there is, but there isn't, in my opinion. I mean, I think it all boils down to the same core ideas, the idea of bringing a character to life and portraying experiences and emotions and telling a story, that type of thing. So like I think at their core, it's all acting, it's all similar. But in terms of, specific techniques and preferences and stuff, they have some differences. But then you could also argue that like the things that work in one or the other could also flip around and help the other thing in a lot of ways. Like kind of the like I guess the stereotypical difference between like theater and film acting is like theater is a lot more like big,
Right.
expressive, almost like more animated, more
Even the
cartoony,
makeup
I
is
guess.
usually exaggerated to
Right.
make the features more visible from a
Yeah, because
distance.
you gotta be able to you gotta be able to reach the person on the front row as opposed to someone all the way in the back of the house. So
Yeah.
you wanna make sure that everyone in the space can have the same ideas communicated to them. So it's a lot, you project and talk loud, you make a lot of more extreme facial reactions, body language, all that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Whereas film, the camera is like very tight. They see like they see every little thing you do and every little like movement you make on your face can communicate a certain
Yeah. I think of
feeling.
I think of just like the emotion like emotions that lead to tears. Whether it's like joy, like
Mhm.
of a child or something that leads to tears, or pain and suffering through loss that leads to tears.
Mhm.
Those two things would be depicted quite differently from stage to film, I feel
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
because the stage, you're never going to see that single teardrop running down their face,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
in film, that may be one of the aspects that's focused on, and maybe
Yeah.
that alone can communicate
Yeah.
it.
And like same like your eyebrows specifically for like screen acting, like your eyebrows communicate so much for like you lift or you curl them tight or whatever, like those communicate so much and like squinting of your eyes and like your mouth, like all of this, like, the camera is right there and you're like
Yeah.
very tight. So like all those things communicate something, And yeah, so, big versus like more constrained and tight is like the general answer, I guess, to that question. But I think, like certain like I could think depending on the project, depending on the type of performance you want to bring to a character, I think there's plenty of room to cross over and do whatever you feel like is most like true to your performance, true to who you are as a performer, true to the character. Like that's I think that's kind of why I said earlier, like I try not to, because it's very easy to just go down a rabbit hole of like technique and backstory and all this information for a character, that could really, I don't know, that could, and I've experienced this a little bit myself, lead to myself kind of freezing to like, okay, am I properly communicating the backstory I came up with for my character right now? Or am I communicating this technique? I kind of, try to just like feel out. I try to rely a lot more on my instincts, I guess, and
Yeah.
just what is gonna work here to communicate the idea, communicate the story, communicate the type of character I'm trying to portray, because sometimes because you can be like loud, expressive, more theater type of acting in a film if it works and
Right.
if it's servicing the story you want to tell. And if you're doing a theater performance that's in a more like black box space, where the audience is a lot closer, you can be a lot more constrained and focus a lot more on the tone of your voice and how you deliver the lines and your expressions as opposed to trying to be theatrical. I think there's a lot more
Yeah.
leeway.
I didn't even think about the idea of like some of the more I don't have much experience with theater, although
Yeah.
I've always been blown away by high school theater performances that I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, that made me forget we're sitting in a high school auditorium." It made me like feel like I was literally stepping into to a new world.
Mhm.
But I forget that there's various types of even theater, like a black box theater. I first time I'd ever seen anything like that was at Montevallo, their new theater
Yeah.
performing arts
Yeah.
center. And I got to go in and get some video sort of talking about the new building itself. And I got to see their black box theater. And the guy that was with me that was guiding me around was describing to me how they basically bring in like bleachers and you're literally right on top. Like at
Yeah.
times the you could literally reach out and touch the
Mhm.
actors.
Those are
um,
so cool to do. Yeah.
that seems like at that point, it does seem almost more like a film, but also 360 kind of
Yeah, like a
experience.
in the round situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's so much, I mean, for like there's so many ways to experiment with theater and like the performance, like what type of performance, like where you want to put the audience, where you want to perform from. Like one of the things I really loved, and like this kind of ties back into this, one of the things that I loved about my Sanford experience was that they really let us and encouraged us to experiment with our theater in that type of ways. Like, I was an acting and directing major, so I also directed some stage stuff. And it was cool experimenting and like I had a lot of friends who did a lot of really cool things. But like experimenting with the like where like going outside of traditional theater space, like Brady Aldridge, other Brady from PB Town, we in our beginning directing class, our final was to put on our own 10-minute performance, which is really just a short play script about 10 pages. And he did his he he did such a cool thing with his play because this was like really in the heat of COVID and like social distancing and all that. So we really had to get creative with where we could do our performances in a safe way. Because traditionally, at that time at Sanford, the stage had a revolve system where the stage floor would like literally spin.
oh, that's
So
cool.
we'd have a curtain that kind of divided the stage in half. Like half the stage was, like half of the circle part that spun was like in the house on the audience, and then while that show was happening, they'd be prepping another show on the other side. So then when it was time to switch, they'd lift the curtain and spin it around so that the new show was there ready to go and close it. And that's kind of just how it was for a while. We couldn't really do that with COVID because it was just such close quarters. So we actually got to go around campus and find our own spaces, like found spaces basically on campus to
Yeah.
do our shows.
Almost like theater in the park kind of thing, but on a college
Basically.
campus.
And Brady Aldridge chose to do his show in like the rec center pool. He got his grandfather's canoe and like, tied it down, kind of like fastened it to the sides of the pool to make it safe, but put this canoe in the communal, like in the rec pool, and had like had his actors, one of which was Anna Lynn, in this canoe in the pool, and performed the whole play like in the pool on like an in a canoe because the con I can't quite I'm gonna be such a fake friend and theater person for this, but the
You
name
didn't
of
pay attention at
I
all. You were
didn't.
just looking at the canoe and
I know.
how are they
I
doing
was like,
this?
this is so fun and inventive. But it was the what he ended up doing was an excerpt from a larger play that I can't quite remember the name of right now. But it was basically like a fishing trip, and they were like in the ocean, kind of tied to like an oil rig, like deep sea fishing. And so he put it in a pool with a canoe and had the actors in the canoe actually do the whole thing. And like one person gets thrown overboard at one part, so like they actually throw her in the
Yeah.
pool. And yes, like that type of experimentation is something you can like is something so cool about theater, because usually I feel like, that's not something that's only something you could get away with in a film setting.
Yeah.
Is like where you could actually get out on the water with an actual boat and have actual like the simulated physics of that type of conversation with the boat constantly rocking around and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So stuff like that, like putting the audience in different places, and like kind of like you said, like doing in the round performances where the audience is like all around you all the time. So stuff like that, like the idea of like knowing the rules and knowing the rules well enough to where you can break the rules, like that is something that was so good to learn in type of educational setting. Like we just, you know, yeah, the theater program there, we got to do so much stuff, experiment, and they really encouraged us to do that. On top of, kind of like I said, just renting gear out and making my own silly little things, whatever. And we had like one of our one of my good friends whose name is Nick Nicholas DePrima. Shout out Nick. He had he had really pioneered along with the rest of our like student show, like our student led council, I guess. We had like our own student run thing called Underground Theater. He really pioneered like a Sanford Theater Film Festival that we did every year, where, because we had a lot of people that loved film, so we would make our own little shorts and put them in this festival for like to have an audience.
Yeah.
So like that was something also encouraging, to just make my own stuff and put it out to an audience. And even though it was mostly friends, still getting actual reactions to things. So yeah,
Let me
yeah.
interrupt you real
Okay.
quick. So, what I'm hearing you say a little bit is school was an experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and that maybe that's first of all credit to Samford, but also credit to probably a lot of these kind of programs where it's theater or film school. You don't just sit in a class and be told what to do or how to do it. You're actually sent out and
Yeah.
given these tasks, and you create, you make
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, 'cause,
I
like,
guess
yeah.
it's more of like a concentrated opportunity to really learn by doing.
Yeah, 'cause, Sanford, the Sanford Arts, the School of the Arts at Sanford has a lot of, a lot of great classes and a lot of great experiences, especially tailored to, theater and stuff like that, which I love because I love theater.
Right.
Like, it's the best place to learn acting, in my opinion, is just doing theater. But,
Maybe storytelling too, or
just in general, yeah,
communicating.
there's
Yeah.
so many things you can take away and learn from theater, like even if you don't end up pursuing it as a career, just in everyday life. But at least at the time I was there, it didn't really have much of a film, like a true film program. It
Right.
was a lot of like again, like media communications type news type of thing. So like it had one or two classes, but not a whole lot. It was mainly like the classes it had were very broad, and I took them and I got to learn some stuff from them. But I've always been a hands-on learner, like doing the stop motion 3DS
Right.
films as a kid and making little skits in high school. Like I feel like that's where I've learned a lot from. And like at Sanford for my acting, like being in shows and getting to actually, act and develop a character and just read scripts and just like visualize this type of stuff. I've always been a hands-on learner in that department. So yeah, being able to still get like the classes for technique and all this stuff like that's very important. But for me specifically, like having access to equipment and having access to other creatives that were, actors, writers, directors, all this stuff, and being able to collaborate and make something and then watch the thing and just kind of feel like, all right, this really worked here. This didn't really work here, and take that and just apply it to the next thing and just on and on and on. Like I've always found that is what works best for me. I'll give you a great example of this. Um, this would have been my junior year. Me and other Brady, we were taking a screenwriting class, and we had taken a playwriting class like the year before, but there was a screenwriting class we took this year, taught by the same professor. And we only really had one assignment the whole year, and that was to write a feature length screenplay. Like everyone in the class turned in a feature length screenplay at the end of the year. I wrote one, which is a little rough. But Brady had written one. I'd kind of gone really big with mine. I was like, I'm never gonna make this. So I'm just gonna, have fun with it. Just go a little bigger than a budget I could acquire right now. But he wrote his with the idea of actually shooting it. And so he, got his final draft of it turned in. And that spring break, we spent the whole week just shooting this feature film that he had written in class. And there was one point in my life where I was like, oh, I'd love to be a DP.
Yeah.
That's not really who I am anymore. But for this feature, I DP'd this. I didn't act in it or anything. I DP'd and edited this feature film, and we spent a whole week just making our own feature film. And it was a chamber film all in one location. It was just like basically a film just about an argument between a couple who were kind of like reconnecting and stuff. And the whole thing took place at night, so we blacked out all the windows, lost all sense of time because we were shooting all throughout the day and it's pitch black because we just like taped trash bags to the walls. And it was a lot of like handheld oneers, so we really had to utilize practical lighting. And like that experience, first off, gave me such an appreciation for second ACs because we had a slate at the first like day or two, and then we kind of just lost the slate. So for the editing process, trying to edit the film was kind of a nightmare because
Yeah.
I had to go through everything and just like listen, like, okay, is this the same take? Like this for syncing audio files and
Yeah.
video files, like, is this the same take? Nope, that inflection's all off. All right, let's go to the next one.
Wow.
No, no.
Yeah, there that props to the actors to make it that close to
Yeah,
each other, because I feel like
yeah,
each one would be dramatically different
right.
if I was doing it.
Yeah.
So,
So, but like, yeah, Brady Aldrich, he co-directed it, wrote it, and acted in it
oh
himself
wow,
with another actress, and then I DP'd it, and we had a lot of other friends that came in and helped with it. But I feel like I learned so much from that shoot that I took on to other things. And while we were editing this, after I met Brody actually ended up coming on as the colorist for it and actually made it because I was just going to color it myself, even though I had no idea what I was doing in that regard. But he came on and made it look like way better than I ever
yeah.
would have. And yeah, like just going out there and making something and doing it and like trying, failing, learning, repeating, doing all like I've always said, getting your reps in,
Yeah.
just the idea of going out there and doing it and trying over and over and over again, because it's always hard being bad at something, like when you first start out, like the idea of being bad at something is just not fun. But just doing
What
it over and over again,
it definitely looks like you've gotten in quite a few reps, and it sounds like with the school at
Mhm.
Samford and the classes you did there, you got some really incredible opportunities to do some really neat
Yeah.
things.
And
So,
yeah.
let me ask you this: so, advice that you maybe have received or that you would give to somebody now, sort of, or maybe even give to yourself when you were that kid in a theater class back in high school, or the little
Yeah, doing
Lego
Legos,
stop
yeah,
motion.
yeah.
What would you say to somebody that has aspirations to maybe get where you are now, or get where you think you're still heading?
Yeah, see, this it's such an interesting question because I still feel like I'm early in my
Yeah,
like career and stuff. So a lot of the advice I have, I think is just stuff I also like am giving to myself in a sense. Cause again, I still feel like I'm at a very early point in where I want to go and want to be.
there's always
Um,
somebody behind you, though. You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's always
exactly.
somebody
Yeah.
that looks at where you're at and says, "I hope to be there
Right.
in progress towards somewhere else." Probably.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, don't be afraid to try and fail
Yeah.
and learn. Because there's been a lot of instances where I've been in situations or doing things that have made me a little uncomfortable or made me really doubt myself. But without those experiences, I would not be the person who I am today.
Right.
Or the person who I was even a couple years ago, like like those experiences are really the ones that shape us and change us and just like allow us to become better and just, not only be better at our craft and what you want to do for career, but just better in general as a person,
Yeah.
I think. So,
A productive struggle is something I've always heard. Like, you can't, if for instance, as a teacher, if you see a child or a student struggling and all you do is like sort of give them the out or
mhm.
give them the solution, then you're almost robbing them of the opportunity of learning and growing in that moment. So
Mhm.
I think anytime you can fail, anytime you can like try something and hit a wall and then figure out, how do I get around this? How do I get over it? How do I get through it? Like, there's nothing but growth there.
Yeah,
So, or
exactly.
how do I even like get up the next day and go try it again?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's one thing I think. Stay present. Be present. Oh, I had things and I was
Sort of
leaving
like
my
the Scrooge.
brain.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
even earlier you said about how present you were in being Scrooge's dad, but present enough to where when something went wrong, you were able to be aware to like pivot and change.
Being present, being able to adapt and, figure out, creative solutions and, like if you don't know an answer that someone that has an answer, which I think leads to the next thing is like build a community,
Yeah,
do stuff with your friends. It can be it can be a bigger, higher, more high-end production, or it can be just you and an iPhone, just doing something, just again to get your reps in. Like if this, I think if filmmaking and all the creative endeavors, the writing, directing, the acting, if that's something you really want to do, it's just like it's kind of like going to the gym. Like you just got to do it over
yeah,
and over
yeah,
and over again. And a lot of your early work is not going to be good. A lot like really none of my early work is good at all. That's why a lot of them are unlisted on my YouTube.
yeah,
But without that, you're never gonna learn what works and, like, how to do it better, I guess, and then lead you on to the next thing to where you're writing scripts you feel confident in or that imposter syndrome kind of fades away, I guess, so I think
we hope,
yeah,
right?
we
We
hope,
hope,
we
we
hope. It's
hope one
still
day.
here for
Yeah,
me, but maybe for you, but yeah, I think like having a community, yeah, having community, staying present, not being afraid to fail, and just remembering to have fun.
Mhm.
Like you gotta like bring the joy into what you do because that's just key to maintaining the relationships you're trying to build.
Yeah,
Like if they get along with you and they vibe with you and they'll invite you on to the next thing and then you'll just continue to grow that relationship, like being someone, just being, you know, I guess for me, like just like laid back and not trying not to be stressed and just like enjoying the moment, enjoying like I'm making something with this cool group of people
yeah,
and I might not be able to make this thing with this group of people again. So just enjoying it and just being kind,
yeah.
you
I
know?
agree. The community aspect is so important. I think for anything you're doing, probably in life, but
Yeah.
especially I've learned in doing a creative kind of industry, especially as like a business or just a job in general. I'm thankful to have Cole here today. He's
Yeah.
a special guest behind the scenes. I feel like
Shout out Cole.
he's
There it
going to be
is.
in that seat at some point,
Oh,
but
man.
not
I'm
not
ready to hear
today.
that.
but
Yeah.
uh, but like our time working together really showed just that synergy that happens when you've
Yeah.
got because I was a one man show for a long time in my role, but having that opportunity to like feed off each other and that give and take and that just you really like we talked about earlier that Max even brought up like the idea of that birthing something new
Mhm.
because it's not just you anymore trying to figure out it on your own, but it's like two or more people that really are coming
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Community's huge, and
Yeah.
Birmingham is full of it.
Right. Like one of those pictures in the previous slide, one of those stills was from the BTS of Max's latest short, One Ticket, a one-way ticket to nowhere. One
Yeah,
of those was a BTS of that. Like, I think that summarizes like my post-grad journey. It's just like I spent a lot of cold DMing people and hoping they respond to
yeah,
me and getting on sets with those type of people. Like I mentioned the Cedar guys, like they were someone that like responded to me and Kyle Roberts, who I've
yeah.
been interning with for a couple of months before this, who's taken me onto sets and got me to broaden my horizons in terms of people I know and Brody, getting to work with him a lot and more practically doing these sidewalk scrambles. I just did another sidewalk scramble this past
I was about to
weekend.
say it was just a week ago, right?
Yeah, just a week ago, and I don't know when this is coming out, but I mean, free promo if you want to come see what we shot. The 25th, 6 o'clock, it'll be screening Sidewalk. So shout out Jory and Sadie Sue again, and like all and Lewis and all the people that worked on that, But
Yeah.
and like doing those, like such a great. I met so many new people doing that, and so many people doing previous scrambles with Brody and all these other people and just getting on set whatever it may be. So yeah, just get out there and do the thing, reach
Love it.
out.
Love it. I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next for you? Where's this going? What's your hopes and aspirations? Where do you see yourself in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, and 25 years? I don't know.
Yeah, this has been something I've been really contemplating over the last year, I think,
Yeah.
because
Getting married first, right?
getting
That's
married
definitely
first,
in the
getting
near
married,
future.
that's locked down. Nothing.
September, right?
Yeah, September 5th. Nothing's changing on
All
that
right. That's an
front.
invitation to everyone out there.
Oh
If you're
yeah,
no,
yeah. You watching it, yeah, you can come. Where? Yeah, you'll get it. You'll get it in the mail. But I've been thinking about this a lot the past year, I think, because post grad, I really started just getting a lot of opportunities to do behind the camera work, like PAing
yeah,
and doing some group work and interning for Kyle, which has been amazing, and some second AC work. I've been doing a lot of behind the camera work, which I love. I love doing that because it's making the film. And I've gotten to write and direct post grad one like more legit short film, I guess, called Never Let Me Down, and that's been fun. But I've really missed being in front of the camera and acting, so I'm really wanting to do a lot more of that. I've been, updating all my actors access and everything, all the acting websites, and trying to throw myself back out there again and trying to write some more. I've got some scripts that I've been working on to try to get myself back out there. I have one that I'm working on that's like really just an experiment to challenge myself, I guess. Just it's one that I wrote, I'm a be in and just completely make on my own just to see like what I can do and just like because again, I love all of like the full process of filmmaking. So I have one script written that I'm wanting to do kind of just solo just to see what I can make.
yeah.
And it's been a second since I've directed a film, so I think it'd be a good way to get back into it. But yeah, I think yeah, I'm planning to write more, act more, and just be a friend that you can call to help with your film if anyone's needing some help with stuff, just trying to get more plugged into the community. I got like I said, I got that scramble film that'll be screening at Sidewalk on the 25th. So depending on when this comes out, the seat's there, the ticket's there, come out and see it. So yeah, just really wanting to explore the more creative side, I think.
Yeah.
The and
stretch yourself in some ways that you have done before, but maybe just haven't done as much recently.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really wanting to get back into some acting, do some more theater. I haven't done theater
Yeah.
I haven't really done theater a lot since I graduated, and that's been about 2 or 3 years ago. I really want to get back into that. So, yeah, I think continuing to make, continuing to create and collaborate in all the areas, but really wanting to focus on my acting and my writing and all those more creative endeavors. So I think if I could find a way to just do that forever, I'd be content. But I also, I mean, I do some wedding videography as well. So if anyone's getting married soon and needs someone to pressure record on a couple moments, I'll
There
be
you go.
there. So
You gonna record your own wedding?
no,
Just selfie style
no,
the whole time?
yeah, the whole
GoPro, maybe
time.
a 360 stick,
Yeah, I'm
something like
sure.
that?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
be there at the altar just
Yeah.
doing this. I'm sure Annalyn would love that.
I can imagine
Like, all
so,
right, can we
yeah.
run that back? I fumbled some lines.
Yeah,
Yeah, I gotta
exactly.
get that
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
So yeah,
We missed that kiss. Can we do that one more
yeah,
time?
take two. All right, but yeah, just trying to just wanting to continue just to develop my own skills and yeah, just be out there and making some stuff.
Well, I
Making some
look
cool things.
forward to seeing more of this stuff.
Oh
Your
man,
mother loves to share you and your brother, and as like babies and toddlers and young kids. So
don't all
props to your
mothers.
mother.
Yeah,
We're gonna start talk. We started this talking about her. We need to end it talking about her.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
what's her first name?
Cindy,
Cindy. Thank you, Cindy, for what you've
thank you,
done,
mom. Yeah,
what you've sort of created in your son here. But seriously, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me. I look forward to seeing the scramble and what that sort of came about, but then also
yeah,
just all the other work that you're going to be doing. I look forward to seeing you on the stage one day soon, hopefully,
yeah. Hopefully, yeah.
and in front of the camera.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you,
Yeah.
and go Gophers,
Go Gophers.
golden
Yeah, Golden
Gophers,
Gophers,
purple
baby.
and gold.
HYT. Was HYT a thing when you were there? We did
No.
we went HYT.
No.
We did that one.
So when I was in middle school, it was Pittman Middle School.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was so funny. We had these shirts that just I think my sister had it. I think they stopped doing them by the time I got there, but it said PMS and it just had claw marks through it. And I was like, there
That's
you go.
amazing. I'm
We love
jealous. Yeah,
PMS.
PMS. What a great way to end. There we go.